Hello friends. Welcome to Zube Stories, where every story hides a little secret just waiting for you. Are you ready for a ride? Settle in, watch gracefully, and let the magic unfold. Don't forget to subscribe and share, because some stories are too good to keep to yourself. Naomi had always been proud of her ability to remain calm under pressure. As a tech consultant, she was used to tackling last-minute issues, debugging lines of code when everyone else was too frustrated to go on, and speaking calmly to frantic clients who saw crises at every turn. However, none of those experiences quite prepared her for the pinch in her gut she felt that Wednesday morning. Her husband, Jordan, was packing for what he called a business trip to meet prospective clients. It wasn't unusual for him to travel. As a partner at an investment firm, he frequently jetted off to big cities or picturesque retreats for negotiations. But something about this particular trip felt wrong to Naomi. Maybe it was how he avoided her eyes while folding his shirts, or the fact that he had missed dinner 3 nights in a row that week, giving only vague explanations and shrugging off her questions. Still, Naomi tried to shrug off her doubts. She told herself trust was vital in marriage, and they'd been married long enough that any small hiccup didn't necessarily mean something catastrophic. As she helped him zip up his suitcase, she asked, "So you'll be gone for 3 days?" "Probably just 2, Jordan replied. "We'll see how the meetings go. But I promise, if I can wrap up in 1, I'll come back immediately." He hesitated, then gently rested his hand on her shoulder. "Thanks for helping me pack, babe. I know this is last minute. I appreciate you." Naomi offered him a small smile. "Of course, just stay safe. Text me when you land." She noticed his phone screen had a new notification, but she couldn't make out what it said before he quickly tucked the device into his jacket pocket. He left shortly after, giving her a perfunctory kiss on the cheek. The house felt especially quiet in his absence. Naomi walked through the living room, noticing a single sock he'd left behind on the couch. "He's so scattered these days," she muttered, picking it up and tossing it into the laundry basket. The rest of the day was spent on her own work, troubleshooting a complicated software system for a company in Singapore. She kept her mind busy, not wanting to dwell on the uneasy tension from that morning. By 8 p.m., she was cleaning up from dinner, leftover pasta and a glass of wine, when her phone buzzed. At first, she assumed it was Jordan letting her know he'd arrived. But the message wasn't from him. It was an automated location ping. Confused, she opened her phone settings. Jordan had accidentally left his location sharing feature on, something he'd rarely ever used in the past. But there it was, a small blinking dot indicating exactly where he was. Instead of being at a hotel near the airport or in the neighboring city's downtown, Jordan was 2 towns over, near a private lake. Naomi frowned. She'd been there once before, on a weekend trip with friends. It was a serene place known for its still waters and lush greenery. But there weren't any business centers, no corporate offices, no big hotels. It was a place people went to escape. Probably just some exclusive rental for the meeting, she tried to reassure herself. But the nagging thought remained. Did he lie about flying out? Maybe the flight was tomorrow morning. Or perhaps he had local business first. Yet her instincts screamed something was amiss. Still, she brushed it off. "No sense jumping to conclusions," she murmured. She was about to turn off the phone when, out of curiosity, she zoomed in on the map. The address belonged to a Lakehouse, one she'd never heard him mention before. And he'd said this trip was out of state, so why on earth was he still within driving distance? For a brief moment, she considered calling him. But the suspicion that clutched her chest made her hold back. Something told her that if she called and confronted him directly, he'd only spin a new explanation. Or worse, he'd turn off the location feature, and she'd be left with more questions than answers. Unable to let it go, she decided she'd drive out there. She told herself she'd act as though she'd forgotten to pack something essential in his suitcase. That was believable enough. She'd done so before, dropping off a lost wallet or an important file. It would be the perfect reason to see what was going on without tipping him off that she suspected anything. Gathering her keys, she forced a calm breath. "Just a quick drive," she whispered. "I just need to see." Heart pounding, she locked up the house and set the GPS, following the blinking dot of Jordan's location, a swirl of apprehension and determination fueling her every move. The drive to the Lakehouse took about 40 minutes. Naomi passed familiar landmarks, the small bakery she used to love, an old movie theater that had closed years ago, and a quaint diner that still boasted the best burgers in town. Each sight was strangely nostalgic, offering a sense of comfort that clashed with the turmoil in her mind. When she finally turned down the narrow gravel road leading to the property, her headlights illuminated a large, modern-style home sitting at the water's edge. It was dark outside, but she could see the soft glow of lamps shining through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The reflection danced on the lake surface, creating a picture-perfect scene, like something out of a luxury vacation magazine. Naomi parked a short distance away, not wanting to alert anyone. She found a spot behind some dense trees and killed the engine. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she stepped out into the cool night air. Crickets chirped, and a slight breeze rustled the leaves above. Everything felt too peaceful, too idyllic, given the storm raging inside her. She grabbed the phone charger she had in her purse, a prop to justify her visit. If Jordan questioned her, she'd say she came because he forgot it. As she approached the front door, she noticed it was already ajar, a crack of warm light spilling onto the porch. Soft music played inside, an old jazz classic she recognized from Jordan's collection. He rarely listened to that kind of music unless he was entertaining. Swallowing hard, Naomi raised a fist to knock. But before she could, she heard a burst of laughter coming from within. A feminine voice, light and carefree. Carefully, Naomi peeked in through the gap in the door. In the open-concept living room, a tall woman with flowing dark hair cradled a bottle of Jordan's favorite vintage wine. Her bare feet stepped gracefully across the hardwood floor as she teased Jordan about something Naomi couldn't quite make out. The sight made Naomi's stomach twist. She shrank back, stumbling off the porch step before she could be noticed. She nearly dropped the charger. Questions ricocheted in her mind. Who is this woman? Why is she here? And, most disturbingly, why is Jordan here with her, at a place he claimed didn't exist? For a moment, Naomi considered marching in and demanding answers. But the shock and the raw betrayal she felt made her panic. She was unprepared for a scene, unprepared for whatever heartbreak awaited her. Instead, she fished her phone from her pocket and snapped a photo from the darkness. It was blurry, but it clearly showed Jordan seated on the couch, a wine glass in hand, and the mysterious woman standing near him, wearing a carefree smile. Naomi's heart felt like it was splitting in two. Part of her wanted to rush in, part of her wanted to flee. Ultimately, her instincts told her to gather more information before confronting him. So, with trembling hands, she backed away from the door, carefully returning to her car. She sat there for a moment, breathing heavily, the hum of adrenaline making her feel lightheaded. In her confusion, she thought, maybe this is just a colleague. But deep down, she sensed that this scene was far more intimate than a casual post-meeting drink. The way the woman was dressed, a simple silky robe, wasn't the attire of a business partner. And the affectionate way Jordan seemed to be leaning toward her made Naomi's chest tighten. A cold realization washed over her. It felt like affair was the only plausible explanation. She had never truly suspected Jordan of cheating in their years together, but everything about this situation screamed it. Anger, grief, and denial warred inside her, leaving her numb. Okay, she whispered to herself once inside her car, locking the doors reflexively. I need to handle this carefully. I can't jump to conclusions without concrete proof. Yet the photograph on her phone was all she could see in her mind. She stayed parked for another 15 minutes, watching shadows move through the living room windows, hearing fragments of conversation and laughter that cut her soul like shards of glass. Eventually, she started the engine, tears pricking her eyes. She promised herself not to cry yet, not to break down until she had clarity. As the gravel crunched under her tires, she felt a surge of determination. She would find out exactly what was happening, and she would protect herself. No matter how painful the truth might be, she needed to uncover it. The road stretched out under her headlights, leading her away from the lake house she had never known existed. A symbolic passage from trust into doubt, from innocence into a resolve to face reality head-on. That same night, Naomi returned to her home, a place she once found cozy and safe. But now, every shadow in the living room seemed to carry tension. She set down her purse on the kitchen table and stared at the blank white walls as though seeing them for the first time. The hum of the refrigerator felt deafening in the silence. She knew she should sleep, but her mind wouldn't let her rest. Instead, she went straight to her laptop, opening up the joint financial portal that Jordan had set up years ago. Technically, both of them had access, but Jordan had always been the one to handle their finances. She only occasionally logged in to monitor small things like grocery budgets or phone bills. The login screen greeted her coldly. She typed in her credentials with shaky fingers. Once inside, she scanned their bank accounts. Immediately, she noticed transfers she didn't recognize, large sums of money moving to accounts with vague names like AV Holdings and TL Ventures. Frowning, she cross-checked the monthly statements. The pattern went back 6 months, small but steady amounts that had ballooned over time. She opened another tab and pulled up their mortgage records. They were up to date, which was good, but there was no mention anywhere of a separate mortgage for a Lakehouse. So how had he purchased that property? Digging deeper, she found an online real estate filing link to something called Ardenvale Holdings. The property tax statements indicated a purchase 6 months prior. As her heart pounded, she realized the location matched the Lakehouse address. It was titled solely under Ardenvale Holdings, which was apparently an LLC. But who owned the LLC? Naomi's eyes blurred from reading so many legal documents, but she persevered. Eventually, she discovered that Jordan was the managing member of Ardenvale Holdings. And nowhere did it list Naomi's name. She was effectively locked out of an asset her husband had purchased without her knowledge. Her mind spun. Had Jordan siphoned their joint savings to buy a secret property? And for what purpose? The photo on her phone offered a chilling answer: a second life. A second home. Possibly a second relationship. Exhausted and furious, she called her closest friend, Kira. It was close to midnight, but Kira answered on the third ring. "Naomi? Are you okay?" "I'm sorry to wake you," Naomi said, voice trembling. I found something. About Jordan. I think he's been lying to me." She hesitated before offering a brief recap: the unexpected location ping, the Lakehouse, the woman, and the suspicious financial activity. Each fact she relayed felt heavier on her tongue. Kira, a paralegal with a knack for uncovering corporate misdeeds, listened carefully. Wow, Naomi. That's a lot to take in. But you don't have to do this alone. Send me the documents you have. I'll help you sift through them." Naomi's voice cracked. "Thank you. I just can't believe this is happening. He's always been so. I don't know, responsible. Straight-laced. Maybe even a bit boring. I never thought he'd have a secret house." Kira sighed sympathetically. "Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who fool us the easiest. Don't blame yourself for not seeing it. Just focus on what's next. Secure yourself financially, and gather as much evidence as you can." After the call, Naomi felt marginally more stable. She copied all the relevant documents, the statements, and screenshots of the property records into a secure folder. She labeled it proof, a word that underscored how drastically her life had changed in just a few hours. Her eyes burned with exhaustion, but her mind refused to shut off. She attempted to sleep, lying in the same bed she shared with Jordan, the covers pulled tight around her. Her thoughts kept drifting to the image of him on the couch in that Lakehouse, wine in hand, whispering something that made the mysterious woman smile. The heartbreak was raw, and every time she closed her eyes, it replayed in her mind. By the time the sun rose, she had dozed off only for a few minutes at a time. The early morning rays cast long shadows across the bedroom. Usually, she found the sunlight comforting, but today it felt intrusive, exposing the cracks in her marriage that she had naively hoped didn't exist. She got up, made herself a cup of black coffee, something strong to match her tumultuous mood, and braced herself for what would come next. The question wasn't whether Jordan was lying, it was why and what to do about it. Naomi realized she was officially entering a new phase of her life, one where trust was replaced by suspicion, where love was overshadowed by deception. And she had no idea what the final fallout would be. Naomi spent the next day working from home, though her focus was shredded. She answered client emails and half-heartedly tested new features, but her mind kept drifting to the Lakehouse. She decided to gather more info. If Jordan was going to feed her excuses, she needed facts to counter them. That afternoon, Kira called her back with an update. "Naomi, I did some digging on Tessa Langdon, the woman you mentioned. You're not going to like this. Naomi braced herself. Tell me. Tessa is a real estate broker. She's done high-end property acquisitions, mostly for wealthy clients looking for privacy. She's also been rumored to date some of her top clients. This is all hush-hush, but I found photographs from real estate conferences. Jordan's in the background of a couple, and Tessa's always close to him. Naomi closed her eyes, pinching the bridge of her nose. I knew there had to be a connection, but I didn't realize it was so public. Kara paused. There's more. I found pictures of Tessa and Jordan on a yacht last month. The images were tagged under a corporate event. She's wearing a designer dress, he's in a suit. They look close. The words sent a jolt of pain through Naomi. I had no idea he went on any yacht event. He never mentioned it. He told me he had a series of investor meetings in Chicago. This means he's been lying for months, if not longer. Her friend's tone softened. Naomi, I'm sorry. I can't imagine how this feels. But at least we know who she is now. This Tessa might be the reason he bought that Lakehouse, or maybe she just facilitated it. Either way, Jordan's involvement is undeniable. Naomi swallowed the lump in her throat. I feel like an idiot, she whispered. He's been telling me how tired he is from work, how stressful it is to keep the investors happy, and meanwhile he's living this secret life. With her. Don't blame yourself. You trusted your husband. That's what spouses do. Listen, your next step is to figure out your legal standing. It might be time to protect yourself. If he's using marital assets for this property, you have rights. Naomi inhaled slowly. Yeah, I just need to see this through. She paused, thinking about how Jordan had always been the breadwinner, the one who balanced the books and made financial decisions. She'd assumed he was good at it, and she'd let him. She never saw a reason not to trust his stewardship of their money. Now that trust seemed like her biggest mistake. They ended the call, and Naomi found herself staring at the old wedding photo on her desk. It was from a simpler time, a candid shot of them laughing. She remembered how, on that day, Jordan whispered to her that he would always put her first. Looking at that photo now felt like a punch in the gut. She slid the picture face down and got to work, combing through Tessa's social media profiles. Most were locked tight, but the glimpses she found showed a glamorous life, high-end restaurants, exotic beaches, and sleek offices. Jordan appeared in the background of some pictures, never tagged, but there if you looked closely enough. The same grin Naomi once adored was now a sign of betrayal. Later, Naomi wrote Jordan a brief text, "Hope your meetings are going well. When are you coming back?" She got an automatic response, "In a meeting, we'll call later." It felt robotic, and it only fueled her suspicion. She decided not to press further. Let him think you suspect nothing, she told herself. She had learned enough to know that exposing her knowledge prematurely would only give him time to hide more secrets. As the day wore on, she found herself pacing the house, her mind racing with hypothetical confrontations. A fresh wave of anger made her want to call him and scream. But every time the impulse rose, she reminded herself, she needed a plan, not just a reaction. She was a methodical problem solver by nature. This situation, as painful as it was, demanded that same level of strategy. She took a hot shower that night, letting the steam envelop her. As she rinsed away the soap, she pictured every drop washing away a bit of her sorrow. By the time she stepped out, she felt more determined than ever. Tomorrow, she thought, she would do more than just gather evidence. She would prepare to confront him, and make sure she had the upper hand. By the next morning, Naomi's resolve was solid. She wanted to see how long Jordan would keep up the charade before finally returning home. She busied herself with chores, ignoring the pang in her chest every time her mind drifted to the Lakehouse. Finally, at around noon, her phone rang. She recognized Jordan's number and let out a shaky breath before answering. "Hey," she said, trying to maintain a neutral tone. "Hey, babe," Jordan said, his voice carrying a forced cheerfulness. "Everything okay there? I'm sorry I haven't been able to talk much. These meetings have been intense." "Yeah, I figured," Naomi replied. "Just wanted to hear your voice." He hesitated. "So, I'm wrapping up sooner than expected. Should be back tomorrow evening." Naomi forced a smile, even though he couldn't see it. That's great. I can't wait. She paused before adding, so, what hotel are you staying at? Maybe I can call and have a little welcome gift sent to your room. Jordan coughed lightly. Oh, that's sweet, but I'm actually switching hotels tonight. Long story, but don't worry about it. I'll be home soon, and I'll explain everything. Naomi's stomach knotted. Of course, no problem. Talk to you soon, love you. She ended the call, disgust roiling in her gut at the word love. She felt both heartbreak and rage. He was lying so fluidly now, like a seasoned actor. Later that afternoon, Naomi decided to confront him indirectly. She opened her phone's photo album, selected the picture she had taken of Jordan and Tessa at the Lakehouse, and sent it to him. No caption, no context, just the damning image. Then she waited, and waited. Hours crawled by with no response. Late into the evening, her phone finally buzzed. A text from Jordan, we need to talk. In person. No apology, no explanation, just that. Naomi's heart thundered in her chest, but she felt a twinge of satisfaction. There was no more denying it. He couldn't brush this off as a misunderstanding. The photograph spoke volumes. She was still wide awake when Jordan called at midnight. She answered on the first ring. Before she could speak, he said, Naomi, it's not what it looks like. I can explain. She bit back a retort, forcing her voice to stay calm. Then I suggest you come home and do just that. He exhaled sharply. I'll be there tomorrow morning. We'll figure this out. She hung up without saying goodbye, her hands trembling. The house was eerily quiet, shadows dancing across the walls from the streetlights outside. Tomorrow would bring a confrontation she never imagined she'd have. And while part of her dreaded it, another part couldn't wait. If he dared to spin more lies, she had proof, and she wouldn't hesitate to use it. The emotional toll was crippling, but her tech consultant brain saw it as a puzzle to solve, gather evidence, confirm facts, lock in outcomes. There was a strange sense of empowerment that came with the knowledge she'd gained. Jordan's mask had slipped, and Naomi wasn't going to let him hide behind excuses. Sleep that night eluded her once again, but unlike the previous nights, she wasn't overwhelmed by confusion. She felt a steely determination coursing through her, an inner strength that surprised her. She clutched her phone in bed, occasionally re-examining the photo of him and Tessa. As painful as it was to look at, it reminded her of why she needed to stand firm when he arrived. When dawn broke, a swirl of emotions churned in her stomach. Heartbreak, anger, a twisted anticipation. She knew that by day's end, her marriage might very well be irreparably altered. But she also knew one thing for certain. She would not be blindsided anymore. Jordan walked through the front door that morning looking more disheveled than Naomi had ever seen him. His eyes were bloodshot, and his shirt was wrinkled as though he'd slept in it, or not slept at all. Naomi stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She had set the stage carefully. On the table were 3 items: a binder of financial records, the real estate documents for the Lakehouse, and the photo she had printed of him and Tessa. He paused in the doorway, eyes flitting from Naomi to the damning evidence. Naomi, he started, voice pleading. She cut him off. I'll ask questions. You'll give me direct answers. That's the only way we do this. Understood. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. Yes. Naomi's eyes flickered to the table. The Lakehouse. Bought under Ardenvale Holdings. Why? How long has that been your plan? Jordan sighed heavily. It was an investment, initially. Tessa introduced me to it. She said it would be a gold mine in a few years. I thought I'd surprise you when the value doubled. Her lips twisted in a sardonic smile. Surprise me? With pictures like these. She tapped the printed photo. I saw you there, Jordan. Laughing with her. I saw how cozy you two seemed. And you told me you were out of state. Don't insult me with some half-baked lie. He looked at the ground, not meeting her gaze. Okay, he admitted quietly. It wasn't just an investment. Tessa and I have been, I don't know, it's complicated. Naomi felt tears threaten, but she inhaled sharply to keep them at bay. So you've been cheating on me, using our money to fund your secret lifestyle and lying to me every step of the way. That's the complication? Jordan's jaw clenched, and he finally looked up. It started as a business thing. We got close. I didn't mean for it to become personal. But then I realized. I wasn't happy, Naomi. She felt a surge of anger. Not happy? With me? So your solution was to funnel money into a hidden property and shack up with your real estate broker. He ran a hand through his hair. I didn't want to hurt you. I just felt trapped. Tessa offered excitement, a chance at new ventures. I thought if I could manage both worlds. Naomi cut in, her voice icy. Manage? You considered our marriage something to manage? Jordan, do you hear yourself? He remained silent, eyes darting to the binder. She could see him calculating how much she knew. Look, Naomi, we can still fix this. It doesn't have to end our marriage. I messed up, but maybe we can. She slammed her palm on the table, the sound echoing through the house. Stop. You're only saying that because you got caught. You're not sorry about the affair. You're sorry you couldn't keep it hidden. Jordan tried to speak, but words failed him. Naomi picked up another set of papers from a folder. While you were away, I took precautions, she said. I've frozen our joint accounts. I've spoken to a forensic accountant. I've arranged to protect my inheritance. She slid a thick envelope across the table. These are divorce terms. Clean and uncontestable. Sign them, or we go to court. And I promise, every bit of your financial duplicity will be exposed. Jordan stared at the documents, stunned. Naomi, come on. Don't do this. We can talk. She stepped back, arms folded tight across her chest. Talk. You had months to talk. You had months to stop lying. Now we're past that point. The tension in the room was suffocating. Naomi could see the fear flicker in Jordan's eyes, a look she had never seen before. He was cornered, and he knew it. Finally, after a long silence, he sank into the kitchen chair, head in his hands. God, he mumbled. I never thought it would come to this. Naomi stood firm, tears burning her eyes but not falling. Neither did I, she said quietly. But here we are. News of Jordan's affair and the impending divorce spread quickly. Among their circle of friends and Jordan's professional contacts, rumors abounded. In a matter of days, Tessa learned the full extent of his financial entanglements. One morning, Naomi received a cryptic phone call. Who is this? She asked after picking up. A brittle female voice replied, Naomi, this is Tessa. I'm sorry to call you like this, but... Naomi felt a chill. Why are you calling me? Tessa hesitated, then said, I had no idea he was married. Jordan never wore a ring, and he said you were separated. And now I find out he's in deep financial trouble. I'm sorry. Naomi's grip tightened around her phone. I'm not interested in your apologies. Whether you knew or not, I've seen the pictures of you together. Tessa's tone grew smaller. I know, and I understand your anger. But I ended things with him. I don't want to be caught up in his lies. He's more manipulative than I realized. He told me so many half-truths. I'm done. Good to hear, Naomi replied, a quiet edge in her voice. She ended the call abruptly, not wanting to be dragged into Tessa's own heartbreak or regrets. Not long after, word of Jordan's crumbling finances reached his investors. The revelation that he had been moving marital assets into an LLC for personal gain raised serious red flags. As Naomi's legal team began unraveling the labyrinth of bank statements, it became clear Jordan had violated ethical and potentially legal boundaries. One by one, his investors withdrew, unwilling to be associated with potential fraud. Naomi was bombarded with calls from people she barely knew, business associates of Jordan's, journalists sniffing around for a scandal, even distant relatives. Each caller wanted a piece of the story, some new tidbit of juicy gossip. Naomi declined them all. She refused to feed the fire. Her silence was as strategic as it was protective. If Jordan was facing legal action, she wanted to ensure her name remained untarnished. Jordan's father, once a staunch supporter of Naomi, called her 3 times in one afternoon. She finally answered on the 4th attempt, her voice weary. Mr. Curtis, I'm not sure how I can help you. Naomi, he began. his tone pleading. "I'm just trying to keep the family together." Jordan's upset. He says you're leaving him no room to maneuver. "Could you maybe?" She bit her lip, anger flaring. "Room to maneuver? He cheated on me. He lied. He stole from our joint accounts. I think you should speak to him about maneuvering." "Because I'm done." He took a moment before responding. "I understand you're hurt, but isn't there a way to keep this private? The Curtis family has a reputation to uphold." Naomi blinked back tears. So this was about reputation, not about her well-being. "I really have nothing more to say," she replied icily. "Excuse me." She hung up, ignoring the phone's subsequent buzzing. In the span of a few weeks, Jordan's life had collapsed. Tessa left him. His father's pleas went unanswered. Investors jumped ship, and his entire professional reputation took a nosedive. Naomi watched from afar, detached yet not without pangs of empathy. She had loved this man once, deeply, but the reality of his betrayal was too great to ignore. At times, she thought about making a public statement, clarifying her innocence in the fiasco. She even drafted a few lines on her social media, stating the basics. She was divorcing Jordan. She had no knowledge of his questionable dealings. But each time, she deleted the post. The truth would speak for itself in court filings and divorce papers. She didn't owe anyone an explanation. Besides, focusing on clearing her name in the public, I would only prolong her emotional entanglement with a man she was determined to leave behind. And so she chose silence, a deliberate refusal to dignify the swirling rumors. Strangely, it felt liberating. Let them speculate. Let Jordan face the consequences of his own making. Naomi found a sort of calm in knowing she no longer had to defend or explain anything. He had blown up their marriage. She was simply moving on. In the weeks that followed, Naomi's life took on a new shape. She focused on herself in a way she hadn't in years. She joined a local boxing class, wanting a healthy outlet for the anger and stress that still simmered within her. The first time she punched a heavy bag, she felt a release that almost brought her to tears. She spent more time with Kira, sometimes just sipping coffee at a nearby cafe and discussing the latest legal updates. "You're doing better than I expected," Kira commented one day, sipping her latte. "I'm proud of you." Naomi smiled faintly. "I still have breakdowns at night. But I decided I won't let it define me. I gave so much of my time and energy to Jordan's life. Now it's my turn." Kira reached out and squeezed her hand. "Exactly. You deserve it." Around the same time, job recruiters started reaching out. Word traveled that Naomi was an exceptional tech consultant, and many companies were eager to have her expertise. Previously, she might have felt anchored to her home and marriage, content with a stable routine. Now, she was more open to new possibilities. She began sending out her resume, exploring positions that would challenge her skill set and offer a fresh start. Jordan's mother invited her to a family dinner, hoping to make peace. Naomi's phone beeped with the text invite. "We miss you, dear. Let's talk this out like a family." She stared at the message, remembering all the warm holidays, the kind advice his mother had given her over the years. Still, she couldn't ignore that Jordan had manipulated and betrayed her. And now, his mother was calling for peace only after everything had already imploded. Naomi politely declined. She simply wasn't ready, or willing, to relive the drama. She had chosen silence for a reason. She had no interest in letting anyone minimize her pain or persuade her to bend. Jordan's family might have their own regrets, but that was no longer her problem to fix. Instead of the family dinner, Naomi went to her boxing class. She punched the bag with steady precision, sweat dripping down her temples. With every hit, she let go of a little more pain. The instructor, noticing her intensity, nodded approvingly. "You've got real power," he told her. Her nights, which used to be filled with quiet dinners with Jordan or hours spent waiting for him to come home, were now hazed to shape. She started writing again, short stories, personal reflections, even a few chapters of what might one day become a novel. It was a passion she'd shelved when her life became too centered on Jordan's career and their future plans. Now, she found solace in the written word, each paragraph a testament to her reclaiming her voice. A particularly moving piece she wrote dealt with betrayal and resilience. She didn't mention Jordan or Tessa by name, but the essence was there: how a person can discover unknown strength when they are blindsided by heartbreak. She toyed with the idea of publishing it on her blog, but for now, it was enough to write just for herself. Each day, Naomi made a conscious choice not to answer the calls that kept coming from Jordan. The only communication between them was facilitated by lawyers. Part of her ached to confront him, to make him see the damage he'd caused, but she knew it wouldn't matter. Sometimes silence was indeed more powerful. It refused to validate or excuse his behavior, and it placed the onus of the consequences firmly on him. The divorce proceedings moved quickly, thanks in large part to the incriminating paper trail. Jordan stood to lose a significant portion of their assets. Naomi watched from the sidelines, contributing statements when necessary, but otherwise distancing herself from the legal chaos. She knew from her friend Kira that Jordan was floundering, desperate to salvage his reputation. Yet Naomi felt no inclination to offer him any reprieve. He had made his choices. He would live with them. And in that silence, in that focus on self-care and personal growth, Naomi discovered peace. It wasn't an easy peace. Heartbreak never is. But it was real, born from resilience, a clarity that reminded her that life after betrayal can be reshaped into something powerful and beautiful. A full year passed since the day Naomi discovered Jordan's hidden life. The divorce was finalized, awarding Naomi a fair portion of their shared assets. She had also been compensated for the financial deception he'd employed with Ardenvale Holdings. Surprisingly, once it was all legally concluded, Jordan moved to another state to rebuild his career from scratch, leaving behind the Lakehouse and a tarnished reputation. Naomi, meanwhile, stood in front of a charming coastal cottage she had purchased in her name only. It wasn't lavish, but it was cozy and close to the shore. The sound of waves crashing soothed her. She sipped a cup of tea, a breeze lifting strands of her hair as she stared at the horizon. Inside the cottage, half-packed boxes stood along the walls. She was settling in, piece by piece, placing new furniture and decorating the space with a simple but warm aesthetic. No more living under Jordan's taste. No more compromise on her own style. This was Naomi's refuge, a tangible sign of her newfound independence. She set her mug down and opened her laptop, navigating to her personal blog. Earlier in the week, she had written a long-form piece titled, "When Love Becomes a Lie, My Story." It was the most personal thing she had ever put into words, detailing how she fell in love, built a life, and discovered the devastating truth. Most importantly, it shone a light on the healing process that followed. Her finger hovered over the publish button. A moment of doubt flashed. Was she really ready to share this with the world? Then she remembered how isolating those early days of betrayal were, how she wished she could find someone's honest story to remind her she wasn't alone. She clicked publish. A weight lifted from her shoulders, replaced by a nervous excitement. She expected maybe a few readers, some friends or random strangers. But within hours, the post started gaining traction. Comments poured in, women and men sharing their own stories of heartbreak and infidelity, thanking her for her candor and resilience. The post struck a chord not because it was vengeful or scandalous, but because it was raw, honest, and ultimately hopeful. The very next day, she was inundated with messages from people applauding her for how she handled the betrayal, with determination, strategy, and self-care. Some wanted to interview her, others just wanted to offer support. Naomi responded humbly, reminding them she was just a person who found herself in a painful situation, doing her best to cope. Yet the story went viral in its own small way, further validating that she wasn't alone in her experience. The resonance proved that countless others had walked or were walking a similar path. Naomi felt a deep sense of connection, a healing that came from turning her personal tragedy into a beacon of understanding for others. 2 weeks after her blog post went live, Naomi stood at the bustling train station, her suitcase by her feet. The overhead speakers announced departures and arrivals, adding a lively backdrop to her final moments on home soil for a while. She had booked a ticket to Florence, Italy, enrolled in a writer's retreat in the Tuscan countryside. She'd always dreamed of traveling abroad to focus on creative writing, but never had the time or the freedom. Now, she did. A year ago, she couldn't have imagined embarking on such an adventure alone. Fear would have gripped her, and the sense of duty to remain in place for Jordan's sake would have tethered her. But standing on the train platform, she felt none of that old hesitation. The day was bright, the promise of a new chapter ahead shining even brighter. As she boarded, she found a seat by the window. The train hissed and lurched forward, and she watched the platform slide away. Reflecting on the tumultuous journey that had led her here, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for her own resilience. She'd learned that betrayal may shatter illusions, but it could also ignite growth and clarity. She'd emerged stronger, more in tune with her own needs and passions. Naomi reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. On the first blank page, she wrote a single sentence. Betrayal can break you, but it can also build you, if you let it. A soft smile curved on her lips. She was free from the weight of Jordan's lies, free from the constraints of a life that had revolved around another person's ambitions. Now, she was redefining herself, on her own terms, and the future stretched out like an endless horizon of possibility. No tears. No regrets. Just a quiet, calm acceptance that life had changed course. And she was more than ready to see where this new path would take her. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, kindly hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating tales. I'd love to hear from you. What stood out to you, or what lesson did you take away from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, see you in the next story. With love, Zubay.